welcome to this week's edition of CT Pulse on the HAN Network. It is Wednesday, January 18th. I'm Kate Czaplinski.
And I'm Josh Fisher. We have another wonderful show set up for today. Yeah. Kate, what do we got going on?
A lot of different topics to talk about today. In just a bit, we're going to bring on Steve Coulter, who's the editor of the Ridgefield Press. He's going to tell us about the drug rehabilitation facility that pulled its application after major backlash from neighbors. And that's going to lead us, Josh, into kind of more of a conversation about other instances of that recently, neighbors mobilizing, fighting against certain causes or fighting for something in some recent cases that have been successful.
Yeah, we're also going to take a look at who might be running for governor on the Republican side this week in 2018. We're less than 2 years away from that, and I'm going to name the top 5 most likely nominees.
I love it. Okay, and later on we're going to take a listen to an inspiring story of a Connecticut mother who continues to make her tragedy into something positive. We're going to talk more about that later. Of course, Doug Smith joins us towards the end of the show to preview his editorial cartoons this week. But first, let's welcome on Ridgefield Press editor Steve Coulter. We had Steve on a past show to talk about this application and as it was going through. Mountainside, a drug rehabilitation facility, wanted to move into an estate at Old West Mountain Road. Now, Steve, you just learned this week that they are pulling their applications, right?
Yeah, I woke up yesterday morning to an email from the Planning and Zoning Chairwoman to say that the application had been withdrawn late Monday afternoon and that the applicant was not going to go ahead with the plans, which have been pretty much widely rejected here in town. There was a public hearing on the 3rd of January in Eastridge Middle School, and 11 people spoke against it. They had 24 more people to speak out against it at the next hearing that was scheduled in February,
and there were over 200. There were over 200 people at that January 3rd meeting, right?
Yeah, it was packed. It was unlike any meeting I've ever been to before. It was pretty crazy.
And now, just as some background, Steve, this would be it would have been a higher end rehab facility. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, the clientele that they are looking for is the age is above 40, and the income is, I think they wanted, the annual income of the person to be over, 100,000 or something like that, and they also wanted to make sure that the person had a college degree. So it was definitely it was tailored towards the upper end market of kind of very wealthy individuals that are seeking drug rehabilitation.
So, and the applicant said that people in Ridgefield didn't quite understand the purpose. It was kind of a little backward swipe. They said despite strong support from several prominent Ridgefield residents, we're not seeking to create this level of disharmony in the community, and then went on to say that their proposed project was misunderstood and misrepresented by the Ridgefield Neighborhood Preservation Alliance, which also they have to be celebrating this week, right?
Yeah, they're pretty happy. They sent us a press release yesterday, and their reaction was obviously very positive about the application being withdrawn. So they pretty much won this battle. They started it November 29th. The alliance started, and so they definitely rallied. They petitioned, and they were very pleased with the outcome yesterday.
Now, Steve, do you agree with any of Mountainside's statements in what you've seen? Do you think any of the application was misunderstood by people, or do you think it was really that people knew what they were getting into?
Well, one of the points of contention that was actually brought up by one of the public speakers on January 3rd was that Mountainside kept saying that it had so much public support in town, and this one woman had asked, where is the support? Cite your support. And so that was one thing that I saw yesterday. They said that they had support from prominent people in town, but that's, not something that we ever saw. We didn't hear it in the public hearings. We got only one positive letter to the editor versus about 40 negative ones over the last 2 months. So there hasn't been anybody that's been speaking to the press or in public in a positive way towards this up until, I guess, yesterday. Facebook seemed to finally the tide changed, so to speak,
Yeah.
once the application
Yeah.
was withdrawn. People kind of came out.
Yeah, I want to read some of those
We're more vocal
Facebook
in
comments
support.
because it's the Facebook comments are so opposite of the letters to the editor you guys have been receiving and the feedback. Here's one that said, as a detox nurse, I can say with absolute certainty that addiction affects all classes. Ridgefield is not above the disease and should not be above helping those who suffer. Another person said, what a tragedy. As a provider of substance abuse treatment and a Ridgefield resident, I thought this was a great idea. I'm embarrassed to say I live here. Now, it seems like a case of there might have been people that had no problem with this, but they didn't come forward and say anything.
Yeah, and another part of that, too, is we had a death. A resident died in Torrington 10 days ago from a heroin overdose. So I think some of that reaction is, I think, coming from this latest death. And so obviously any recent news has kind of swung, I think, the pendulum, so to speak, back in towards the favor of getting more and more help for those who are suffering from drug addiction. I think what people are missing there on the Facebook comments is that, you know, somebody like the man who died would not have been served by this facility. So that's, I think, the underlying point is that they wouldn't really be serving Ridgefield teens or Ridgefield youth that is at risk. They would have been serving CEOs and presidents and corporate elitists. At least that was what, you know, their application, they had said to us that, you know, their clientele was supposed to be over 40 and at least have 1 degree, if not 2. So they were definitely aiming for a different market than the one that people are claiming is being overlooked on Facebook.
The Mountainside Management, in their statement that they released after this was withdrawn, noted, Steve, that they've already treated since 2004 about 160 Ridgefield residents. But I mean, my take on this is that it wasn't so much people in Ridgefield were against the idea of a drug rehab facility center, no matter how nice. It was the location, it being in a non-commercial area, right?
Yeah, the Alliance's big stance, and a lot of the speakers who spoke at the public hearing, you're right, that is exactly what they had the problem with, is where it was going to be located and the different difficulties that it would impose on that neighborhood, whether it be traffic or just public safety in general. And they also, you know, said that it wasn't in line with the plan of conservation and development in the town. So there's a lot of land use issues as well as public safety issues that were brought to light by the public in opposition of the application.
This reminded me, and this is probably well before your time, but as someone who grew up in Ridgefield, and I remember back in the late 90s when the Eureka Corporation had purchased the area around Bennett's Pond and wanted to build hotels and a golf course and offices and everything there. And there was a big uproar. I remember attending one of those planning and zoning meetings where it was packed. It really reminded me about this one that happened back on January 3rd. That one was held at Veterans Park Elementary School, but it was a standing room only meeting where they only got to hear from a few people. And the town ended up, that was a much prolonged fight, the people of Ridgefield against it. You know, I even had a bumper sticker on my car.
Time.
Yeah, said save Bennett's Pond, save Ridgefield. And they ended up coming to a deal about 10 years later. For that
Right, there was a
property.
lawsuit, I think, right?
Yes, there was. Yeah, oh, that was a...
Kate probably ended up
I
covering
did.
that,
I
right?
covered some of it, yeah. It just goes to show, though, that these neighbors getting so involved and mobilizing like this really does make a big difference. Now, Steve, the other question is what's going to happen to this amazing property where this was going to be? This is a very expensive estate. Has there been any talk about what else might go there? Obviously, they want it to stay residential, but in this day and age, I'm not sure there's people that could afford it.
Yeah, it's a 22-room mansion that dates back to 1912, and it costs over $4 million. It's 7 acres, so if anybody's interested in it, someone with a lot of money. I don't know if it's any of us, but
I'll make an appointment with my realtor.
Mac Reed spoke to the realtor who represents the owners of Sunset Hall yesterday, and she's putting it back on the market, and they're pretty hopeful about finding the right buyer, but it's definitely been on the market, I think, for the last 5 or 6 years, if not longer.
So the next fear might be if someone buys it and then wants to subdivide it and put up another neighborhood up there, and that could meet its own objections, right?
I was going to say, I don't think, besides finding a very wealthy buyer, I don't think there's a solution up there that will appease the residents in that area. Any sort of development they seem like they're against. So the realtor has a challenge that they need to really find someone just to buy the home and live in the home rather than, you're right, subdivide it or change it into something else.
Well, Steve, you guys have done a great job covering this story, and people can read more about it at theridgefieldpress.com. Thanks so much for talking with us today.
Of course. Thanks, guys, for having me.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
Now, Josh, this leads us to kind of a more general conversation. Like you mentioned, Eureka and Ridgefield. A lot of these other cases where neighbors get together and mobilize. Something similar is happening in Shelton right now, just down the street from us. Residents are trying to stop one of the largest developments in Fairfield County history. You can see some protesters there. They're calling themselves SOS, Save Our Shelton. Now, the town center at Shelter Ridge, the name of this development, would include a residential complex with 405 apartments, more than 500,000 square feet of retail space, and 20,000 square feet of medical offices. Now, this would be a 121-acre property that's right off of Bridgeport Avenue, down from here, Buddington Road and Mill Street, located across from Long Hill Cross Road. Now, I just drove down Buddington Road the other day, and when you go down it, all you see are signs opposing this. Now, interestingly, this meeting has been moved a couple times. It was initially supposed to come up for a vote last Tuesday. It got moved to this Tuesday and then moved again to this Thursday. So Aaron Berkowitz at the Shelton Herald's going to be covering that, but I'm really interested to see what happens. I know SOS is going to be protesting there and outside of the meeting before it happens.
Yeah, and this was, I think, a good example of in Ridgefield, of neighbors in the town able to come together, because they also formed it as, it wasn't just their neighborhood, the Save Our Neighborhood group. It was, this could happen in any neighborhood in
Right.
Ridgefield.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's how that's been going on here in Shelton in the same way, but we've certainly seen this a lot. We've seen this in Darien for years. The Planning and Zoning Commission in Darien last night just finally approved permanent stadium lights for the football field. Darien is the last, one of the last schools in the entire FCAC not to have a lighted permanent lights on their football field, so no night
And they have
games.
such an amazing athletic program there,
Right,
too.
yeah. But for years, there was, the Board of Ed stood in the way, in part subset because the chairman was a neighbor of the school, and a lot of the neighbors didn't want it to happen, but there's been a campaign up for about the past 20 years now, and they finally got them approved. Last night, I think they still need to raise the money to build them.
Right. So we see a lot of fight against development, but actually in Darien it shifted, and it was a fight to get these lights in there. I know the Darien Athletic Foundation was a big part of that, the Lights Brigade that they did there. So kind of interesting. And taking a turn, Josh, into a different kind of petition and mobilizing of neighbors. This was one of our top stories last week, reported by the Monroe Courier, but a petition to move one of Massac High School students to an alternative school setting received more than 3,000 signatures in a change.org petition. Now, the petition calls for this student, who's a junior at Massac High, to be removed due to his alleged involvement with social media attacks on special needs students and African Americans. The petition does include screenshots of the post. They are very offensive. We could not show any
They're
of them.
sickening, really.
They are. And this petition says, as a school who encourages diversity and loves and supports our special needs students, we find it very difficult to maintain peace and focus on our academics. As a community, we understand the challenges that special needs students face, and they want to provide an oasis free of judgment and alienation. Now, this is calling for the Monroe Board of Education, Massac Principal Joe Cosba, and the Vice Principal to take action against the student. Now, the principal did respond to the Monroe Courier, saying that these postings came to their attention and they have an ongoing investigation working in partnership with the Monroe Police Department, the Board of Education, and the superintendent. Now, this is a really difficult situation. I don't know that I advocate for the removal of a student. This is obviously someone that is experiencing some issues, having some trouble. These are horrible postings, allegedly, that were posted by the student. But it is an instance of kind of a community coming together and say, this is not all right.
But it's a slippery slope where
Yeah.
a community can come together and pick and choose somebody that they don't like and have that move.
Pitchforks and torches.
Right, exactly.
Right.
But, there's other ways to do that too, but also you could say this is a good way to shine some light on it and to force a move. But then what comes next? You want to remove someone because, I don't know, they vote differently than you, or they beat your son when he was running for class president or something like that, and build these sorts of things up. That's why we do elect our Board of Ed members, so that they can help guide these decisions, and that's why we hire the professionals to handle it. But it shouldn't be a pitchforks and lanterns.
Right. But we both agree that I think that child definitely needs some kind of intervention. Parents should be involved in that.
You tell me I agree with you, Kate. I agree with you.
You do, though,
We
right?
still have more
We
of the
talked
show
about
to
it.
do. Yes.
But just an interesting story there. You can keep following that at MonroeCourier.com. Tina Marie Craven doing a great job on that story. Interested to see where it goes. But, as former newspaper editors, we saw a lot of kind of neighbors mobilizing for a cause. It usually comes up in planning and zoning a lot.
Yeah, or school. Often, I've covered so many when a school wants to expand or do something, and then
Or
neighbors
close
who
a
move there.
school.
But it's often neighbors don't like things to change around them, and particularly if you live in a residential neighborhood, which you can understand.
Totally.
But also, I think one thing, if you move near a school, you got to expect something to change there.
Right.
There's a good reason for that too.
I agree. All right. Well, we're going to step out for a break, Josh.
We are.
When we come back, you're going to give us some of your predictions for the 2018.
We'll just be looking at with
right.
possibilities, Kate.
Okay.
We'll get out the crystal ball.
All right. More on that after this.
While there's still a bite out on the water, most anglers have decided to stow the gear for the winter. Just because Mother Nature isn't cooperating doesn't mean you can't see the latest models of all your favorite gear. With 2 convenient locations, it couldn't be easier to get your fix of summer. Boater, beach bum, fisherman, or simply love the New England coast, this is a unique place to shop. The Dock Shop, 51 Tokenique Road, Darien, 609 Riverside Avenue, Westport, or on the web, dockshop.com.
It's all about meeting goals this year, and Trinity CrossFit of Ridgefield has experienced trainers, top-of-the-line equipment, and a newly renovated space to help get you there. Offering more classes per day than any other CrossFit gyms in the area, we cater to all fitness levels. Our coaches have a combined 10 years of experience in CrossFit, and as competitors themselves, Trinity coaches can get you ready for competition in 2017. Visit our convenient location on Route 7, Danbury Road, or find out more at trinitycrossfit.com. It's all about meeting goals this year, and Trinity CrossFit of Ridgefield.
Whether you're looking for the freshest seafood, the perfect steak, or want to share delicious appetizers, look no further than the Stone's Throw in Seymour. Chef Peter Hom has more than 30 years of experience creating original recipes in his American eclectic style. Our dishes are made from scratch with fresh, local ingredients that pair perfectly with a seasonal craft beer, a signature cocktail, or your favorite wine. When you visit our Riverside location, you'll feel like you're on vacation when you're only a stone's throw from home. Visit us on Roosevelt Drive in Seymour or at stonesThrowCT.com.
Want a new experience in car buying? No aggravation, no confrontation, just answers to all your questions. Scap Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Car buying the way you want it to be. With one of the largest selections of new 2- and 4-door Jeep Wranglers available, we are Connecticut's Wrangler headquarters. Located in Fairfield, Connecticut, we're easy to get to. Just 2.5 miles off the Merritt Parkway, exit 44 via Route 58 South. Save thousands right now during the Start Something New sales event, now through January 31st.
Discover a world of wellness in the heart of New Canaan. Halo Studios, New Canaan's first collaborative wellness center, offers you the freedom to choose from the best and latest health, fitness, and wellness options. Inside Halo Studios, you'll find all the wellness experts you need at places like Halo Fitness, Priority Wellness, and Sama Yoga Center. Come by for a free wellness assessment, open 7 days a week at 45 Grove Street. For more information, visit halostudios.com or call 203-594-9909.
If you're watching this broadcast, you're not alone. The HAN network is available for 200,000 Connecticut cable customers on the Frontier network. And we've also reached 1.7 million viewers on our free live streaming sports, news, and entertainment broadcasts. To reach our rapidly growing audience, contact Advertising Director Jessica Murrin at 203-273-7312 or email jessica@han.network.
Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan, and you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on EV charge daily, plus 420-mile full range. But don't take my word for it. You need to come in and test drive the Volt yourself. Visit us at 261 Elm Street in New Canaan or online at carldirect.com. Hi, this is Leo Carl from Carl Chevrolet in New Canaan, and you've heard me talk about the Chevy Volt for years. The new model gets 53 miles on
Look
EV
at all
charge.
this holiday. Avoid the stress of holiday planning and let your friends at Walter Stewart's in New Canaan do the heavy lifting. Whether you're looking to fill in with a few crowd-pleasing sides or you want us to prepare your whole feast, from cranberry sauce to pumpkin pie, we're ready to simplify your holiday. Place your order from our holiday menu and spend your holiday the right way, relaxing. Our fresh prepared holiday meals to go are designed with your busy schedule in mind. Visit us at stewartsmarket.com or at 229 Elm Street, New Canaan. Why cook?
Welcome back to CT Pulse on the HAN Network. I'm Kate Czaplinski. Now, Josh Fisher has been following potential gubernatorial candidates in 2018. This week, we're looking at the GOP side, Josh.
Yeah.
And you have some highlights.
Yeah, so, the big talk right now is about whether or not, people are wondering if Monroe is going to run again. We already have Dan Drew, the mayor of Middletown, who's a Democrat, has declared that he's going to run.
Mm-hmm.
There's talk about Kevin Lembo, the state comptroller, running if Monroe doesn't run for governor. Of course, he has a very low approval rating, but he's won.
But that hasn't stopped him.
It hasn't stopped him in the past. I thought we'd take a look at, there's a ton of names out there, Kate, but these are the people that I think are the top 5 most likely to get the nomination. And we're going to start off with Peter Lamage.
It's a beautiful last name.
Lamage. He announced back over this past summer already that he was the first guy to announce that he was running. He's a lawyer. He was born in Albania. And unlike some of the other, if you get enough $100 or less contributions here in Connecticut, that then the state will help give you. So you could get $1.3 million for the GOP primary, and then $6 million for the regular election. Candidates have to raise $250,000 in small amounts by the deadline next year. So so any contribution over $100 is disqualified, doesn't count towards that. Lamage has basically said that he's not going to seek that. He's even planning to do a fundraiser in Detroit because they have a big Albanian population out there. So he's raised the most money so far of anyone who's announced that they're running. He ran for U.S. Senate in 2012. He ran for Secretary of the State in 2014. He got 47% of the vote that year. So he, I think just out of him announcing earlier that he's running and him raising all this money can give him a good shot, because we know that the Republican Party likes people who have a lot of money to run in Connecticut. I think coming in here at 4th place for us is our friend Tony Wong. He's a popular state senator from Fairfield. We call him a John Kasich Republican. He was the chairman of John Kasich's campaign here, who finished in 2nd place in the Republican primary back in April. But he's that kind of Republican where you kind of think of him as being more moderate.
Yes.
He's known for being a very friendly, welcoming,
Listens
warm
to all
guy.
his constituents.
Yeah.
Right.
So he has a very high rating from the League of Conservation League of Voters for his environmental record. He also was born in Taiwan, and his family immigrated here to the U.S. when he was just a boy. And learned English and everything here, and he has a great background of a story, which is the type of thing I think that if Tony were to get the nomination, he would probably win easily. It's getting that nomination. He might not be conservative enough for the primary voters in Connecticut. I think moving on to number 3 here, Erin Stewart, the young mayor of New Britain. She's only 29 years old. If she were to be elected governor, she'd be 30 by the time the election happens. And she's done, if you look at New Britain is, kind of this turnaround that we don't notice it enough down here in our little corner of the state. But in doing some reading about it, they were facing a $30 million deficit when she took over. They now have a surplus. Their bond rating has gone up, been upgraded by Standard & Poor's up to the A+ level. And it was, I think, down in the C level when she took over. And more people are moving businesses into New Britain, too.
So someone that could resonate with voters in other parts of Connecticut. Like you said, maybe us down here, we don't pay as much attention to what's happening in New Britain, but
So, and and she's a nice young face. She's a woman. The last Republican governor we had was a woman in Jody Rell. I think that, and she could maybe get some of the younger voters. Again, though, she is classified as a rhino sometimes by the more Republican or the more conservative members in the state, and it might be tough for her to win a primary. But I think that. You gotta. She hasn't even announced that she's running. Lumage has. Wong has announced. He's formed an exploratory committee. But I think that Mayor Stewart would be an interesting and be someone. They underestimated her when she first ran for mayor. Basically as a kid, and she's still
popular.
there. Yeah.
I mean, you see her pop up a lot. I mean, in local news and such.
She does new media well. She does a
a
live show on YouTube where people can ask her questions, and she talks about things. So
number 2.
Moving up to number 2. Mark Boughton, who's the 8-term mayor of Danbury, well known for his tweets. He's very popular on Twitter and social media. He'll engage with people on there, kind of maybe like our president-elect.
So I mean, that's a little
he's
harsh.
He's not maybe as off the wall as some of those late night tweets you see from soon-to-be President
And he has a
Trump.
sense of humor, so that's what's missing with him and the others.
Yes, so I think having a sense of humor certainly does help. He's popular with I think blue collar voters in Connecticut. Now he's run twice before. In 2012 or 2014
Run
and
for the
2010.
nomination, right?
Run for the nomination.
Yeah.
He was Foley's running mate in 2010.
Right.
2014, he wasn't really able to get his campaign off the ground. And you remember about 10 years ago, he took a very strong stance on immigration in Danbury, which really kind of polarized him.
What was that stance?
It was a big thing was about these late night volleyball games going on with the Portuguese community, in which he helped put an end to. He actually sent immigration officers throughout the city, and that's something that is maybe a little baggage that would hurt him in the general election, but something that just like our current president-elect, taking a hard stance on immigration usually can help you overall with the Republican electorate. So, and number one, I think this guy in the lead, and I think right now if I had to bet who would get the nomination, it'd be Tim Herbst, the first selectman of Trumbull. He had the best performance of any GOP candidate in 2014. He narrowly lost the race for state treasurer. That really got him a lot of cred around the state. TIMPAC, his political action committee that he used to help support a lot of people running for state senate, Republicans running for state senate and state representative this past year, really gave him a lot of connections around the state. He has the executive experience, and so and he's good friends with J.R. Romano, the GOP chairman of Connecticut. So there's questions too about whether he's going to run for re-election this year. He narrowly was re-elected in 2015.
And what I think Tim's really good at is he's been staying in the news. I mean, I was just on CT Capitol Report that kind of aggregates all that local news, and there were 4 stories with Tim's name in them. Now, some of the things maybe not so positive, but some, about his attacks on, Democrats spending too much, that kind of thing. So he is good at kind of getting that machine rolling. It seems like he's really working at it.
I think he scares the Democrats the most of any of the potential candidates out there. And I think he fits that young. He's in his mid-30s. He fits that young category that people might want to look to. So I think that so long as maybe we avoid another Republican from Greenwich who doesn't really know what's going on in Connecticut, that the Republicans might have a little bit of a better shot this year.
All right, Josh. All right, I love the list. Awesome. We're totally going to switch gears now. Yesterday, Denise DeGrigley, she does a show called The Drive that airs every Tuesday at 12:30. She does a great job, Josh. She brings in wonderful guests. And yesterday, she had Scarlett Lewis, who's the founder of the Jesse Lewis Choose Love Foundation. Now, Scarlett's son was killed in the Sandy Hook massacre. And she just came in here, and Scarlett's an incredible woman. We've talked to her before. First, I love that she didn't want to veil how horrific that tragedy was. But then she also talked about choosing forgiveness, choosing to react to things differently. And I think with a lot of angry people lately, the inauguration's coming up this Friday, she gave some good advice on just finding that path. So let's check out some of Denise's chat with her.
Give us the formula, because we've got a lot of anxiety and anger in our local society. I'll say, there's a lot of things bubbling up in the world we don't do politics and religion on the show, but everybody's aware of what's going on. And what I liked most about what I read was choosing certain words to avert anger. We've really now got the button where we just jump to anger, right? So what's the formula?
Well, the formula is courage plus gratitude plus forgiveness plus compassion and action equals choosing love. The whole Choose Love movement started really at Jesse's funeral. So I got up and spoke, and I said, everybody has been asking, what can we do for you? And I said, there is something that you can do for me. This whole tragedy in my mind started with an angry thought in the shooter's head at some point. I pictured him as a little boy having these angry thoughts without the tools and nurturing environment to deal with the thoughts. The interesting thing is, as an aside for you and I, each one of us has between 60 and 80,000 thoughts that go through our head a day.
And those are conscious and not conscious.
Exactly.
Right.
And research shows that 70% on average of those thoughts are angry, non-productive, and don't serve us. These are thoughts, and remember, every thought we have impacts us on a cellular level.
Hits the tissues.
Every thought.
I call them ants, automatic negative thoughts. Get the ants out.
Yeah, but we're not even aware of them.
Right.
And we're impacting ourselves mentally, physically, and emotionally. And so, anger rewires the brain. So does love. So I said the whole tragedy started with an angry thought. And an angry thought can be changed. And it could have been changed anywhere along the line. So I said, for me, for us, for our family, for the world, for yourselves, could you please consciously start thinking about what you think about and change one angry thought into a loving thought every
when you
day.
say anger, it could be resentful.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be a type of disappointment.
Right.
Right?
Sure.
It could be a blame.
Sure.
These are all right.
Sure.
Because anger is just like not yelling at your spouse or yelling at your child or yelling at your coworker. I mean, it can be vibrating at a very low level. It could be just like, an angry thought could be, oh geez, I look ugly today. How many of us do that? Right?
And that's a really great point. And anger, of course, is a secondary emotion. Anger is always based on something, right? Based on frustration, based on loneliness, based on fear. So, right. So
anything that isn't love is fear.
Exactly. Yes.
So if I'm a busy entrepreneur and I'm running around the neighborhood and doing all the things that we do as busy parents and people in society, and I'm starting to be mindful, and we talk about mindfulness a lot on the show. Mindful to me is living in the moment and really taking a couple deep breaths between thoughts. Is that what you call it?
Yes, absolutely.
I want
being in the present moment, right?
Right. So sometimes people say to me, if I'm in the present moment, Denise, how am I getting over there? Like if I'm constantly stuck in the present moment of cooking dinner, what's my next, or doing something at work, what's my next thing? So it's not legitimately, it's not literally being present, but it is at the same time. And I find hard to explain. What's your version of present moment? Eckhart Tolle has his, Oprah has hers. Let's define it here for Fairfield County.
Oh, wow, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Present moment would be not having thoughts that are dominating over the future, so fearful future thoughts, not having ruminatings of the past, right? It would be focusing the majority of my attention right here, right now, with you.
So it's an accepting. Here we are. Whatever's going on, this is where I'm meant to be. And if I've got the crazy, fearful, negative thoughts coming in, I can choose another thought. I can choose my behavior, which I loved. I read something, I think it was on your website, that I can choose the way I respond.
Yes, we can't always choose what happens to us, but we can always choose how we respond to everything. That is where our control and our power.
You can watch Denise's full interview with Scarlett Lewis at HAN.network. Josh, we're going to step out for a break, come back with one of our favorite segments.
Can't wait. Doug Smith's going to be standing right over there.
All right, right after this.
Milford Bank, we offer an extensive selection of lending products and services to meet virtually any need. Submit your application online in our Mortgage Web Center. Start to finish, you can apply for a loan in as little as 10 minutes. Our knowledgeable and helpful staff are available to meet with you at your convenience. To learn more about what we can do for you, stop by one of our Milford Bank offices or visit us at milfordbank.com. The Milford Bank, always there. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Are you ready for winter? Ski and Sport has everything you need to be fully outfitted for the season. A family-owned and operated business with over 40 years of experience, Ski and Sport's 3 convenient locations in Fairfield County offer top-quality, high-fashion ski and winter wear. In addition to clothing for men, women, and children, we also offer seasonal rentals for the entire family. Stop by our stores on 1 Ethan Allen Highway in Ridgefield, 877 Post Road East in Westport, and at 110 Main Street in New Canaan, or visit us at skiandsport.net.
Want to reach new heights in your fitness and health goals? Find what you're looking for at Elevation Spin, Train, and TRX in Georgetown, Connecticut. Elevation Spin gives you purposeful spinning workouts inspired by the road. We encourage monitoring of heart rate and energy zones. Elevation also offers customized personal training with dedicated professionals passionate about helping you reach your goals. And let us motivate you to reach greater performance and functionality with TRX suspension training, using your own body weight for an incredible dynamic workout. Located at 4 Old Mill Road in Georgetown, call Elevation at 203-544-9503 or visit elevationspintraintrx.com for more.
I'm Frank Granito.
And I'm Donald Ing for the HAN Network.
Tune in to Nutmeg Sports Monday through Thursday, where we bring you all the top stories from Connecticut sports.
From highlights to player interviews and expert analysis, no one gets you closer to Connecticut's games than Nutmeg Sports.
Nutmeg Sports, now Monday through Thursday at 2 p.m. on the HAN Network.
Give your day a jumpstart with the latest news, sports, weather, and more on Coffee Break, live on the HAN Network, weekdays at 11 a.m. Connecticut news doesn't get any more local than on Coffee Break.
Doug Smith makes a very strange-looking member of the Peanuts gang. Doug,
Well,
it's time for some drawing conclusions.
I know. Well, I guess I'm a blockhead like Charlie Brown anyways. So.
She's not happy about you opening up shop next door.
Kate would totally pull the football back as you try.
Yeah, I would. All right, well, let's take a look at your editorial cartoons this week. One story we talked about a little bit earlier, and that's lights going
The lights
up.
at Darien, they're finally getting the lights on the field after, what, 3-4 years of arguing about them?
About 20 years. But, yeah.
Most recently, 3 or 4 years.
Flew by. Feels like 3 or 4 years.
Don't know what that weird cave is next to the football field, but...
I think it's a tunnel. All right, and this one I really like. So this is, what town was this for?
Shelton.
Shelton. So residents unable to get to the library due to a disability can apply for home delivery, and you have the book knocking on the door. It's very cute. All right. And this one, tell us about Weston Skateboarding
It's
Sensation.
Weston's front page, Bunk the Bulldog. Everyone comes from miles around to watch his bulldog go up and down the driveway on his skateboard.
And he's not wearing a helmet or pads.
No, he's
into extreme.
He's living dangerously.
So Brian Hafley took some amazing photos
did.
of Bunk,
Yeah.
which I believe are in the forum.
This
Also
week,
this
yeah,
week,
tomorrow. Tomorrow's paper.
He does it better than the Red Dog Bulldog, who's always falling off the skateboard.
That's right. Tommy Lee Jones is his voice, though.
That's right.
All right, and in Stratford, we have some blight issues going on?
Right. Well, they're going to make the Blight officer a full-time position, so here we have Captain Blight.
I love that. All right. Oh, that was it.
That was it.
All right.
Short week.
Right.
Those are awesome ones. All right, Doug, as always, so much fun to talk with you.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank
a
you.
big show coming up, right? At the Wilton Library?
No, that was a few months back.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Good job,
You're a
Josh.
little bit late. So.
I'll be there.
All right, Doug. Well, thanks so much. We're going to
I
wrap
ruined the
things
show.
up here on CT Pulse. It's okay. Of course, if you missed anything, you can watch us on demand. Still coming up at 2 o'clock, Nutmeg Sports. And what time is hockey?
Hockey's at 6 o'clock for
All
the
right.
Dairy Nice Rig. Number 2 in the state, New Canaan, takes on Greenwich.
All right,
be
cool.
fun.
And we'll see you for your CT Pulse next Wednesday at 12:30. Have a great day.